No problem. Should we go with that, Paul?
Good with that.
Not a super big crowd.
All right, the time is now 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. If you will, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will start with the approval of minutes. We have two, so we'll start with the June 16th, 2026 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Spigot, seconded by Councilor Lindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to June 30th, 2026, special town council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Spigot, seconded by Councilor Lindy. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to B, announcements from the president. I just have one quick one. I just wanted to, again, thank the 4th of July committee for all their work. It was a tremendous day. They could probably work on the weather a little bit. It was a little warm that day, but overall, what an amazing turnout. It was great to see everybody there. The streets were packed, and the event in the evening was great. So cheers to them, and thank you for all that they do throughout the entire year to raise money just for that event. So I just wanted to give them a shout out and say thank you again. Moving on to C, proclamations. There are none, so we will move to D, citizens open forum. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. Anyone may comment at this time for up to 3 minutes. Just a reminder to please state your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Gerritsen. My address is 941 Plymouth Street. I'm a member of the Public Library Board of Trustees. We adopted a statement last night, and the board asked me to present it to the Town Council. The Bridgewater Public Library Board of Library Trustees has a fiduciary duty to act on matters within the BPL Board's purview. Section 3.2 of the Home Rule Charter of the Town of Bridgewater charges the BPL Board to ensure that members of the Bridgewater community have the right and means to free and open access to information and ideas. To act in any other way contrary to this charge abrogates the trust of the town and the purpose for which the board has been elected. The BPL board has determined that the impact inflicted upon the library by the current town budget crisis will severely degrade the ability of the library to meet the mandated charge. Specifically, the impending and predictable decertification by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners and subsequent loss of state aid shall cause a severe impairment of the community's means to free and open access. Therefore, the BPL board will, in its discretion, support any and all proposals put forward by the town manager, the town council, or the town community that the BPL board determines have a reasonable chance to either prevent or reduce the chance that the MBLC will decertify the library. As of the date of this statement, the BPL board has been made aware of 3 proposals put forward on behalf of the library. The town manager has proposed using the remaining state aid from the MBLC to refund a portion of the library's personnel budget during fiscal year 2027. The board is aware that proposal has changed and still support the proposal as it is now. Alternatively, the town council has proposed a plan to appropriate funds from the town's reserve to similarly fund the personnel budget. And finally, the BPL board has been contacted by members of the town community regarding directed gifts to the town for the library's benefit, including the personnel budget. For the reasons set forth above, the BPL board supports each of these proposals individually or in a combination of all 3 or any 2. The BPL board must state that all 3 proposals represent a short-term solution to the crisis. While they may increase the library's chances to avoid decertification in the current fiscal year, there is no guarantee that they will do so. Further, absent full funding by the town of the library's budget for fiscal year 2028, they merely delay action by the MBLC. The BPL Board recognizes that the budget crisis has affected other town departments and functions, and the BPL Board regrets the impact this has had on both the employees of those departments and the members of the town community that rely upon the services those departments provide. Adopted this 13th day of July 2026 by affirmative vote of the BPL Board sitting in quorum. Constance Franciosi, Chair. As I said, we're aware that the town manager's proposal has changed to reallocating funds from the capital budget to the personnel budget and using the state aid for the capital budget, and supports that reallocation. The most important factor in the statement that we just read is making sure that there's a continuing awareness of the issue that the library is going to face in the next fiscal year. We appreciate the support of the community, the support of the council, and the support of the town manager in trying to resolve our current crisis, imminent crisis, but the fiscal cliff that we're facing in 2028 is going to be untenable the way that things stand now. And we feel that it's the library board's position and charge to make sure that the town is aware of that and the obligations the town has to funding a fully operational BPL library. So thank you very much.
We'll be within a minute. I'll just let it go. Thank you. John Donna, 261 South Street. Just wanted to speak tonight. It feels a lot better in town now that June is over, and to me, personally, that pride flag is no longer flying. I personally don't hold any ill will towards anybody, definitely not by their sexual preference, but I think it's inappropriate that that flag flies in a town. I don't think I've said this before, I don't think it's part of town business. It doesn't have to do with the budget concerns. It doesn't have to do with the water problems, which the town is addressing, by the way. Doesn't have to do with our school size. It just takes away from the town business. And I think, I noticed since the resolution to put that flag up in front of a town building requires approval from the council, I'd asked the town manager, and I think you do an excellent job for the town overall, and I'd ask you, if the flag needs approval from the council, why is the sticker allowed to be in that library year-round? And you got back to me very expeditiously, and I think you tried to answer the question, but I still don't think I have the answer to that. Why, if this council needs to approve that flag to fly for 2 weeks, how can a sticker of the same thing be in a town building? How is that permissible and not against the charter? Councilor Murphy, or Dr. Murphy, I know I've said a lot of good things about you on budget and management, but I know I was at the polls on election day and I had a chance to speak with you. I consider you a friend and I respect you, and on most matters I really value your opinion, and I said to you, and I'll just say this now because I said it to you first personally, I was going to vote for you. 2 out of the 3 councilors at large were a vote. I did not vote for you just based on that issue alone. It bothers me that much. And I know you understand that, you respect that. But it didn't matter because now you're council president and you got elected anyways. But again, I do hope that could, because why is that sticker up? And I do think that flag takes away from the business of the town. Again, I don't harbor any ill will towards anybody, but it should not be up there. And I want to thank the council, town manager, for letting me a chance to come up and speak tonight. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, guys. I'm Marilyn McDonald, 645 Walnut Street. Usually I like to come with good news, but unfortunately tonight I come with disappointing news after the June 2nd meeting that I listened to with misinformation on my reappointment as the Bridgewater Conservation Chair. So I'm hearing a couple of different tiers, but the most important thing is misinformation is such a danger to us all. And when you hear it, it's like, wow. So I reached out to Councilor Ellenberg multiple times on an email to please retract that. As the Bridgewater Chair, that's my reputation. So no, I am not anywhere near 10A wells and B. So let's just have this on the record that I have to clarify now in person, because I couldn't respectfully get an answer from the councilwoman, which I sent a nice, kind letter to please clarify this, you know? Like Councilor Spagione says, we're constituents, neighbors and friends. Okay, you got some misinformation, but if we're gonna run a town off of Facebook or unreliable sources, we ain't gonna get anywhere in this town. That's just not the way to do it. So because I timed the 3-minute email, it's too long, so I'll give you guys each an email, but basically what I really wanna stress is, you know, I'm at the highest standard levels, just like you guys sit at. When we ethically and morally, when we present something, have to make sure we've done our homework and we have the facts. Otherwise, we hurt people. And, you know, there's nothing I love doing better than helping this town. And I've been doing it over 12 years on the commission. 10 A and B. I was out there for 4 hours, 8 to 1, on the 16th, watching those, you know, test pits get dug, the borings. And, I then ordered, you know, chemical testing to protect our town, to make sure that we're as close to a berm, that we want to know exactly what's in that soil. So, you know, and again, as a businesswoman too, and a lifelong nurse, you know, I pay taxes in this town. The business also brings a unique revenue to the town. So please, you know, have your information right when you go to talk about something, because, you know, there are people behind the scenes doing more than you know to try to help this town. And like I taught my children, if something's wrong, then you have to write it. You have to stand up and speak. So, you know, I just wanted to let it know that, you know, my property is nowhere near 10A wells and B. I haven't filed in conservation in over 10 years. I was asked to get on conservation in 2014 because of my work on our site, cleaning up. We're into the cleaning business. We clean and remediate, and our wells are drinkable wells compared to what, you know, we inherited. So those are facts that people were listening, think, oh my God, she must be like contaminating and doing bad things. No, and the truth is, we're doing just the opposite while helping this town at the same time. So just a friendly reminder that when you get up and you have something to speak about, please make sure that you have your facts correct and they're not hearsay, or they're not, you know, off of Facebook or something like that. There are people to go to that have the actual facts, you know, our Board of Health, our town managers, you know, call myself. Everybody knows I'm thrilled to take people around and show what we can do. So I think together, this town, and I'm grateful for what the president's been doing with the water. I'm grateful for all you guys do as volunteers. I know what that's like. There's a lot behind the scenes that people don't realize. So I think we're going to get there, but it's a team effort, and let's make sure that we're concrete with the team and that we have our facts straight. So that's all. No, you know, wishing no harm, but just wanted to clear my name, because that's how I was raised. Have a good night.
Eileen Prisco, 95 Mara Drive. I'm also on the Conservation Commission, and I'm here in support of Mrs. McDonald. The information that you guys received was false, and you actually brought it out in the town. And when you do that, and everybody's watching from these cameras, they're listening to our reputations go down the drain. I'm a business owner in town as well, so it affects our business. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a job creator, I'm a volunteer here, and it's very unfair for people to come in here and speak things that are not facts. So I'm here just to ask you to please make sure you verify before you speak in front of this entire town and tell people about someone else's reputation, because it's just not right. It's not fair. I'm very disappointed in that, and I just wish that people would take the time to consider other people's businesses and families. I've been here for 50 years, and I've been volunteering for probably 30. And I would really appreciate it if people would take the time to look into that before they speak. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Seeing no more comment, we will move on. We move to item F, hearings. We have one this evening. The hearing is for Order O FY 26071, Loan Order Water System Improvements. I'll note the time is 7:15, and this public hearing was advertised in the 6/29/26 Enterprise, and I will ask the town manager if he has a quick update.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I'll just reiterate, we've talked about this a couple of times now, but I just will give a brief synopsis again. This is $8.5 million towards water system improvements. Large part of it is in terms of the Plymouth Street work that we're doing in terms of constructing that new treatment facility there. But we have mentioned as well that we're going to utilize further funding to address water main repairs. We had mentioned Main Street. We've had several water main breaks there. But also utilize it for other well development, supply development resources such as Vernon Street wells. We're going to utilize it for our water infrastructure. We had mentioned before addressing tuberculation at the Carver's Pond plant. We've got a $2 million grant that we received from MassDEP, and we've applied for other additional grants, so we'll offset these costs to grants and other funding sources that we get available, but we do want to have that funding available so we can move forward on the infrastructure improvements that we've been doing.
Thank you. I will next ask if there are any general questions from the public. Seeing none, I will ask if the public wishes to speak in favor.
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. I really appreciate the 4 points that the town manager spoke to. This is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Seeing no more comments in favor, I will ask if anybody from the public would wish to speak in opposition. Seeing none, I will ask if the councilors have any questions. Councilor Lundberg?
Yes, the 8.5 million, we're taking a loan. You said that we will have 2 million offsetting it and further grants in the future, but what interest rate will we be paying on this $8.5 million loan, and for how long?
So it depends. Very good question. So it depends on how we approach it. Sometimes we do short-term, we call it band bond anticipated note, or if we do long-term debt. It really depends. That's work that we do with our treasurer collector, the finance director, but also our financial advisors. So we try to see what's in the best interest of the town. If it's a long-term loan, and depending on what the water infrastructure is, you may be looking at 20, 30 years. It really depends. It's tough to give you that direct answer right now, Councilor Ellenberg. I would augment what I said, so I would add a little clarification. It's $8.5 million for the loan authorization. I mentioned the $2 million grant because for the Plymouth Street project, for example, that project, the budget was $6.1 million. With the $2 million that we've received, that offsets that cost. So it's $4.1 million for this phase of the project. That just gives us a little more flexibility to address some of the other stuff that we want to do, that I mentioned before, addressing water main, seeing if we'll do Vernon Street, whatever else that we can do with that loan authorization.
Okay, and we will be informed about the loan terms at a more opportune time?
Yep, I'll keep the council apprised of the finances of some of the projects that we undertake.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Spigot?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the town manager. Just sort of for some clarification, because I know this has also changed. So this is kind of two parts. One, could you just speak to why we've had these changes, why it's increased? And I do see the $2 million grant in the explanation. Is the plan to have this $8.5 million available, use that $2 million to pay off some of this authorization in the loan itself, or is this kind of like there's $10.5 million here as available funding?
Yeah, I try to address that. I'll tackle that last question first. I look at it as more it's like $10.5 million available to us. That's how I look at it. You're using that $2 million to offset the cost of the Plymouth Street project. So that's how I generally look at it. I think that addresses your question. In terms of how it's changed, and I think it was $7.4 million that we did last year, in May of last year, that we had for water for this loan authorization. So obviously, we're past a year from last May, and I think we've understood that we have a lot more work that needs to be done. So in addition, it's like a $1.1 million increase over that $7.4 million authorization. Remember, we rescinded that, and it's just giving us the flexibility to tackle some of those other projects that I mentioned before. The water main project, for example, I think that's has had a break in it 3 times. We want to focus on fixing it rather than waiting and delaying. So it's just trying to tackle more water infrastructure projects. It's on everyone's mind. I know the council is committed to, my team and myself are committed to addressing these issues and moving forward. So that's probably the largest change. We want to tackle these projects and not wait.
Thank you.
Councilor Spigot.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few questions. I'll ask them each one. Getting back to the bonding part of it, have you already spoken with bond counsel to start the process? And if so, what's our current bond rating right now for the town?
Current bond rate is AA3, right? We spoke with bond counsels, particularly the language. We haven't gone out for a ban or anything like that, but when we do, we obviously would talk with bond counsel about it.
Okay. How long do you think that would take for that part of the process, just for folks at home, just to give them a general understanding?
I don't know. It really depends. It depends when we go out for it. It depends on how we approach it. If you have other projects, I could go into a long conversation on that. I don't have an answer for that just yet.
Okay.
Maybe in the next meeting, I'll give you some more clarification.
All right. My other question would be, now that we have these funds, but looking at it from the lens of the fact that we've now got a moratorium in place, and we've now obviously shared that with the Commonwealth, are we running any risk of monies that we've received the $2 million from the Commonwealth? Are we at risk of any of the monies that we apply for, that you've been working with the team on, of any of that money being rescinded from us now that we have a moratorium in place, due to the fact that we also have the complicating factor of the MBTA Communities Act also in place? Do we have any issue with that right now?
I might tackle that more during the water update, because I was going to give a update kind of where we are based on the action, the ordinance that, the order that the council approved. So maybe I'll give it an update during that period. I don't see an issue in terms of the $2 million grant that we received. I actually just received notification from Mass DEP about it being executed just recently on their end. So I don't see an issue with that.
Okay, excellent. I'll probably have more questions for you during your water update. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. No more questions.
Any additional questions from the council? Seeing none, I will close the hearing at 7:22 p.m. and I will ask for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Councilor Spigot,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Perry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 9-0. We will move to item G, license transactions. We have one this evening, petition P 2027-001. This is in relation to Holbrook Taqueria, Inc. I don't know if there's any additional items to add to this. Debbie, no? All the paperwork's included in a packet. Any questions, comments from the council?
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 33, on the bottom, it says it still needs a final inspection and a CI to open. So should we be giving a license that, something that hasn't passed inspection? And I'm not sure what a CI is.
Somebody want to
So
clarify?
I'll say that. You could condition the approval on it. It's based on the final inspections come from the building inspector. But we received all the filing fees, all the paperwork, no issues we've heard from fire and the police departments. We just need for the final sign off from the building inspector. So considering that, we had another meeting till August, I don't see any issue coming from that from the building department. Deb, I haven't heard any issues from Steve regarding it. So
I wouldn't be giving them their license either until that.
Yeah.
Steve signs off, so they wouldn't have their copies
Yeah.
from me until Steve says it's okay.
But we approved it.
They don't get their certificate, sorry. They don't get their certificate until it's approved by Steve. So you're just approving it, and then I'll give them their certificate when Steve says it's okay.
Can we approve it with a condition
Yeah.
that it'll be approved?
My
Make that part of
recommendation, if
our-
you're concerned about that, I would condition it based on final approval by the building
Yeah.
commissioner.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Councilor Spigot, do you want to rescind your motion then? And we can make a new motion to approve with condition?
Just make it with condition.
I didn't make the
Didn't make the
motion
motion
before.
to
No
but
motion
I'll-
was made yet.
yeah.
Oh, Maybe
I mean, I can make the motion if you want to
Aye.
say motion,
Go ahead.
motion to approve contingent upon final inspection from Stephen Solari in the building department.
I'll second it. Any additional questions?
I'll just state that, this isn't a former location of the D'Angelo's that was on Pleasant Street, so it was a former restaurant as well. So I imagine most things are in place. It's just a changeover for this new restaurant, so I don't anticipate there should be any problem in the changeover.
Okay, seeing no more comments, we will take a voice vote. All those in favor of conditionally approving?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Moving on next, we will have a quick presentation by the Cultural Council. And you're going to set that up, Debbie? Awesome.
Thanks. Watch yourselves.
You might want to clear the area. You're going to get blinded by the projector.
Dropping on their heads, they could use my services.
The computer's on.
It's on
I'm
on
not
the
sure
back.
if it's. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there it comes.
Okay.
Mr. President, just a question. Some of the print on this presentation is really small, and I'd really appreciate getting something that I can read.
I can send you the Excel file for everything that we've done.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, there we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Theo Simeone. I've been leading the Cultural Council since I think it was 2023 that I joined. It's around the same time that I moved here. So, yeah, the Bridgewater Cultural Council consists of Terry Lindy, Joyce Pitta, Jane Merrick, and Matt Putnam. And I just want to throw a special thanks back to Nora Tarr, who she was part of the council up until this year. Was a really big help to me, kind of mentored me in how to drive the council. So really appreciate all the work she did for us. So yeah, the mission of the Cultural Council is to bring, culture and entertainment to the residents of Bridgewater at reduced or free cost if we can. And so going through, it is difficult to read, I understand. And for anyone who wants, I can send the actual native shots of this. But these are all the things that we have funded this year for fiscal year 25, which was the prior year's approvals. Some of the things we funded on here have been the antiphonal brass for the 4th of July. We funded Juneteenth. We have funded some regional high school productions, all kinds of different things that really bring, the kinds of activities that people want to see. This branches from age ranges from kids to adults. We had, I think, a Roomba class for seniors approved in here. The funding for last year was $23,897. The base funding of that provided from the state is $22,900, and there was a $997 balance left over from the previous year that we carried over into fiscal year 25. This year we distributed $23,105. So that leaves us roughly about $792, I believe, for carryover into the next year. And these are just some of the pictures that we had from the things that we've funded. Sheep Day Festival, the Mean Girls High School version. That was a picture from the Handel Plymouth Mayflower event that was celebrating Handel, the works of Handel. And then there's the picture of the Antiphonal Brass and the Juneteenth celebration. And we had the Bridgewater Country Fest come to us back in May. I apologize that the presentation is pretty Spartan. I try to operate on a sort of factual basis. Not really a whole lot of frill to me, myself, but this is what I've had, and yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for volunteering and your time that you put on the Cultural Council. I know it's an important council, and I'll open it up if anybody has any questions or comments from the council. Councilor Trocchia.
I thought this was a phenomenal presentation. It was hit the sweet spot. We see a lot of presentations that are really exceed any sort of level of attentiveness. But thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you very much, Terry, for your hard work. Volunteering is it takes time. So I noticed in the packet a lot of the monies comes from grants. So I really like to see that, and I like to see that it basically operate pretty efficiently. So I think this is a very, very important. I think it really helps our town view things in a more secular light. I think it exposes people to different opinions and different viewpoints, as well as getting different understanding and flavors as to, we got Bridgewater Country Fest. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Councilor Lundy.
I just want to thank you for your hard work, too. I served on a cultural council in Foxborough. It's the only organization in any town that a non-resident can actually serve on, because they had me on it because I worked for the cable station and they wanted the media part. We actually got a lot more money than that, even for the town of Foxborough.
Mm-hmm.
Has that number stayed pretty level
Yes, it
funded
has
for years?
So like I said, I've been here since '23. I've looked at the financials prior to this, and I don't think I've seen a year where it wasn't 22.9. So,
is there anything we can do with our state legislative delegation to try to push to get more funding for arts and culture in the town of Foxborough?
I believe that is the avenue. We have to have people send in comment to the state legislature, our state representatives, to try to bump that up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad to see the Cultural Council up and running. Have you ever thought about applying, because right now the Massachusetts Cultural Commission is now accepting applications to make towns a designated cultural district? Have you ever thought about that? Because you can get a lot more funds through that and grants. Are you allowed to apply for it?
I don't know. I haven't considered that, but I will take that back to the next meeting and we'll discuss that.
Yeah, if you jump on there, they've put more forth, more grants and stuff like that, and it's very interesting. And you get a lot of not only funds, but you get a lot of advertising and stuff like that, because between BSU and our hotel, they advertise travel and all that.
That would certainly be helpful. Yeah.
All right. If you have any questions, I've worked on it before, so just let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
We'll go Councilor Spigot.
I'm going to fight over it.
Mr. President, I'll let Marilee go first.
Okay. I wanted to ask a couple questions. The print is really small. Has the Bridgewater Music Alley ever applied for your funds?
Yes, they have. I believe we funded music. Let me see. We funded Music Alley, I know, back last year. I think if we didn't fund them this year, the reason we wouldn't have done it is because we had 40 submissions and we had 27 approvals. And so we were trying to figure out where best to allocate the money, and we figured it would be best if we could sort of stagger the amounts between repeat groups.
Sure.
except for, you know, like the antiphonal brass. There's some things that we want to just keep going.
Sure.
But yeah, the guidance that I was given was try not to have people completely reliant on the grant all the time. And again, it's one of those situations where we just had so many submissions last year that it was hard to fund everything. Like I said, we had 41, I believe, and we ended up having only 27 funded. So it's not pleasant getting emails from people asking why they didn't get funded, but
Thank you for those who got it. And I remember a time when we used to have many members on your committee. How many people can your committee take at one time? Does it have a limit, and do you need more members?
so as I understand it, there is no limit. That is my current understanding of that. Somebody can correct me. If someone is offering, I will take more members. It does mean that the threshold for us having a quorum goes up, but 5 members right now is the minimum, and I do feel that sometimes we are kind of balancing the knife's edge between getting enough people to come in and, you know, make these discussions and decisions. So it would definitely be helpful if more people would apply.
Great, great. Okay, thank you so much. It's a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Councilor Hunt actually just asked all the questions I was going to ask, so I yield back.
Thank you. Counselor Kennedy?
Thank you for the time that you volunteer. Thank you for keeping this brief. We appreciate it. I have a couple of questions from watching previous meetings, going back a little while. And there's something I noticed in one of these images, and I'm going to get asked this question, so.
Sure.
It looks like one of these was an event in Middleborough.
Yes.
Do we typically give grant money to events that are taking place outside the town?
So that is one of the things that we have a big discussion about usually when there's something that is happening outside or in another community. Typically what will happen is we have that discussion, and I had personally set, you know, kind of like my own rule of a 10-mile limit around where, like radius-wise, where we would give funding to. And I was quickly reminded that there are a lot of ways to get to other places, and that there are some things that people are really, really interested to drive to. So in the interest of that, we had that event funded. It doesn't happen often, but the times that it does, it's because we've had, you know, probably a counselor, like a Bridgewater counselor, who is pretty adamant that they'd like to see that funded.
Okay. And something I noticed brought up in a prior meeting of the council, probably a couple years ago now, so I didn't know if this had changed, so I thought I'd ask. Is there any check on the funds being spent in the event taking place?
So that is one of the things that we are working on. The check is the Bridgewater Council calling people and asking whether the events happened and, you know, whether or not they used the money. For me, it's a little bit difficult. I have a work schedule that kind of asks me to work after hours sometimes. So on top of doing this, I've also got my day job, which turns into a night job sometimes, you know. So the checks and balances on that are a little difficult. Not a challenge that we can't overcome, but it is going to be easier if we have more counselors to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's reliant on, you know, me or another counselor getting on our phone, calling people, asking them the questions, figuring out where things went.
Okay. I appreciate your honest answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Lindy?
Just to add to what Theo said, when I was on the council in Foxborough, we got a request once to fund the Brockton Symphony. And one of my members said to me, well, why are we doing that? Well, it's a regional symphony, and they went to the town of Easton to get money, Brockton, you know, kind of drew that circle around like Theo was talking about, and I was able to put that question to bed. We did have more council members in Foxborough. I think we had 9, and one of the people was designated to check on to see if the events took place and the monies were spent. So if they get more members, even though it'll change your quorum requirements, it'll be helpful.
More members will certainly help us.
Okay, seeing no more questions, thank you again for coming this evening and presenting.
Thank you.
We'll move to item I, Town Manager Report, and we'll start with a water update.
Just kind of going off what we were discussing a little bit earlier. Based on the council's approval of order, our team, we've sent that order to various respective state agencies. We sent it to the AG's office, we sent it to Mass DEP, and we sent it to the Office of Livable Communities. In regards to your question, Councilor Spagone, I heard directly from the Office of Livable Communities. They told us in their eyes that they would review the grant submissions that we had submitted for the one-stop shop. So for their end, they didn't see an issue there. We haven't heard from the AG's office just yet, and I communicated with Mass DEP regarding communication that I had sent to them as well. So they're reviewing that, and they will follow up accordingly. So for the information in terms of your question, when you asked before, the only indication that I've received from the state is from the Livable Communities, and they are going to review the grant submissions that we submitted as the one-stop. But we haven't heard from the AG's office yet. In terms of further general water updates, we're continuing to make progress at the Plymouth Street site. Actually, we're getting PFAS vessels this week, probably by the end of the week. So we're hitting our timelines there. I will bring our DPW crew in for the next council meeting so we can give a more robust update about where we're at in terms of that project. But iron and manganese apparatus, we're on time there. We did back washing this week. So we're doing very well in terms of timelines there. Yeah, this my water update.
Questions from councilors? Councilor Spagone?
Thank you, Mr. President. Justin, getting back to the question about 10A and 10B, since there has now apparently been more progress, is there an opportunity for councilors to actually see that progress in person firsthand, like we did back earlier in June with the site walk? I would certainly like to see what's transpired down there to make sure things are going well. I assume they're going well, but I was curious to know if we would have another site walkthrough, during this next phase of the project. You're getting close to completion, just so, any councilor concerns that we may have had at the early outset that that they've been allayed or assuaged. I'm certainly generally concerned about, them going online, but knowing that the timeline was supposed to be like closer to the end of June, but started July, we're now entering the midpoint of the month, and it looks like it's more of a summer start date. So my bigger concern is I want to see kind of, what's going on down there and how it looks right now.
Yep. One, I would say that particularly when we talk about June, July, obviously in construction, you have your general guidelines, but we had language in there saying, June 29th was our date. We know this is a design sort of build project. So timeline-wise, I have always kind of said summer. And so in terms of that process, I know at the water forum that I think we all were in attendance, I actually said it'd be late June, late July for the iron and manganese, so we're right into that time. I also had mentioned that, it'd be August, September potentially for PFAS, so right on time regarding that. I'll speak with our team in terms of that. I do want to continue to move forward as quickly and deliberatively as possible on that project. We do provide images on a weekly basis and do give weekly construction updates about what's going on there. So we'll continue that. And also, we actually talked with Guilfoyle that potentially this week we're going to have them come in and do an overview of the work that has gone in place so they can see the scope of the project. So we'll have some video imaging potentially coming out for that too. But I will speak with the team and see if we can arrange another site walk. Really focus on making sure we get this as quickly as possible. But I will talk with them about it.
And an additional question, Justin, as to water quality, are we still doing reporting from the test pits on site near the wells? Do we have any results for those right now so that we know what we're looking at when they do come online, how much it's going to positively affect the water quality itself? Do we have any idea of that right now?
Yeah, so the Conservation Commission, that information will be sent over to the Conservation Commission. In terms of water quality of the wells themselves, yeah, we would test those as we test all our other our water sites, so that is public information. We'll release that information. Yeah.
No more questions at this time, Mr. President.
Any additional water questions from the council? Councilor Kennedy?
Has there been any update on the resolution that we had sent your way on other available water opportunities?
Yeah, I think we've talked about, we obviously want to take a look at Vernon Street. We've talked with other parties about third-party acquisition of properties. We'll probably have a discussion a little bit later on regarding that. If your question is a little bit more about like the desal plant, my update regarding that right now is that we're reviewing a draft IMA. We're going through that process, and whenever we have something that is suitable for the town that we think is something that works for the town, like I said, I gave a commitment, I'll bring it forward before the council, but I don't really have anything further just there yet.
Okay. Through you, Mr. President, the iron and manganese filtering at Plymouth, maybe I missed it. Was there a timeline on what we were closing in on? Are we looking at the next week or so, or?
Yeah, we're going to move as quickly as possible. In terms of iron and manganese, I think that timeline that I had said, I think mid to late July, we're right on time there. We we want to make sure that we do this project right. You could theoretically operate it now with iron and manganese, but it'd be a manual operation. We don't have enough staff to do that. We need to make sure it's automated. We want to make sure it works. We test it and so forth. So I think the next council meeting, you'll have a very robust update about where we're at.
Okay. And there were some questions that I saw about the test pit wastewater. I think there's some, maybe people are mixing up reverse osmosis systems with evaporating test pits. Is there any idea, or maybe you can get back to us, how much wastewater actually comes out of these? Reverse osmosis is quite a bit of wastewater. So I know we're trying to maximize what we get out of these wells. So that was something I've seen brought up a couple times here and there.
Okay. I've heard a couple of questions in terms of like wastewater and so forth, or I'm just imagining the frac tanks and different things like that. I'll make sure our team is prepared in the August meeting and talk about that a little bit further.
Okay.
Maybe we need a little more information regarding it.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Council Lindy?
Through you to the town manager, we have a long time between this meeting and the next meeting. Can we be kept informed during that time frame, either through you as the council president or directly from the town manager, about where we are in this process, especially on the IMA with the desal plant? And hopefully, I know I talked to you, Justin, about this, about us getting to see that plant. I know it's a holdup on Brockton's end, but I think we have to look at what we're even considering before we even play with the agreement.
Noted. Yeah. I think I've talked with all the counselors. I'm going to do my best to try to get tours for that. If that's something that is of interest for the council, that's something that's a priority for me. We'll move forward in that. And as always, we'll keep you abreast of what's going on in terms of the water. I do kind of reiterate, on a weekly basis, we give exactly what we're doing construction-wise, what's going on there. We provide that for public dissemination. If anything changes timelines or anything like that, I will make sure I communicate that to the council.
So on that, I would like us to get it before it's posted publicly. I would just like to be kept informed on a weekly basis. It's just me.
Councilor Spigon?
A follow-up question, Mr. President. So I just want to make sure I have this clear. Is Brockton the only entity that we've looked at doing an IMA with? We're already interconnected with the town of Middleborough, and they were gracious enough to extend what we currently have. Would it not be seen as I guess you would say, almost a diplomatic slap in the face if we didn't ask Middleborough if they would be willing to help us out in that regard? I grant you it would be a more permanent agreement or arrangement with them, and certainly they have their own matters that they would have to attend to, considering it would be through town meeting. But I'm reticent to hear about the Brockton proposal without having actually pursued one where we already have an interconnection with one of our neighboring communities. And I think it would be almost insulting to our neighbors if we didn't explore that possibility. Is that something that we are looking at?
think you have to have all options on the table. I guess I would say that, for example, when we receive water from Middleborough, there isn't, we have an average, right? It ebbs and flows based on their demand. There isn't a community that has the capability or capacity to give 1 million gallons per day to the town. 1 million gallons of water is a significant amount of money, significant amount of water that I think Middleborough would be very honest about that they don't have that capacity to do. But, you know, and also obviously the rate that is charged, the 1.5 times rate is a pretty significant rate. So I think that's how I would respond to your question. I think you got to take a look at all options that are on the table, but the one that you really care about is making sure that it's cost effective and that it gives you enough volume for what your need and demand is for the community.
So my follow-up to that would be would there even be a consideration of regionalizing our water system with Middleborough? Instead of it being an interconnection, we make it one integrated system. I realize that might take some time, that may even take a different tone of negotiation, but, you know, where we're already tied in, and if we were to make our systems work one-to-one, I would think that having joint ratepayers would be a better idea. Consolidating services, especially on a regional level, may even help us make some savings, both for us and possibly for Middleborough in the long term. I'm trying to think a little more outside of the box, considering where we are financially strapped in some cases. And, you know, natural resources are, you know, things that we need to carefully protect and guard, but also we want to be able to, you know, use them in a way that's beneficial for both communities. So I would think that, you know, this could be an opportunity for us to have a more longer lasting relationship with Middleborough outside of just this like temporary 90-day additional extension. I think it is something that we could potentially explore. And like I said, I'm trying to think outside the box because I think it would be a great proposal to even explore and have a conversation with them on. Regionalization of services might actually be one of our ways we can solve some of our problems. But I think I would like to hear it from you first, though, Justin.
Okay, but we haven't discussed that with Middleborough. I think that would be a conversation to have with Middleborough.
Any additional questions? Councilor.
Yes, we have had Apex working on 10A and 10B. Has Apex made any progress on the Vernon Street studies and progress towards developing that well? You know my position. I think that we should be masters of our own destiny with water and not be relying on other people. So it sounds like this thing with Brockton is way ahead of everything else. What progress are we making with Vernon Street, especially with the $8.5 million loan that we just approved tonight?
Same where we were at before. We're doing preliminary test pits and work there. And so Apex has done that work. We also applied, as part of our one-stop for growth grants, we applied for some money to do engineering and design for the Vernon Street wells. So that will largely, obviously, if we don't have to pay for those, for that expense, as I mentioned before, we're going to try to get these grants in place first so we don't have to take those costs on. But that is something that we've applied for. Yeah.
Okay.
Seeing no additional questions, we'll move to item B, FY27 update.
Sorry, for fiscal year 27 update, just real briefly, I wanted to say that the governor signed the fiscal year 27 budget, the state budget in effect, and I wanted to thank our Representative Driscoll and Representative Gallagher and Senator Driscoll. We had advocated for some earmarks that were included in the budget. We've received, we'll be receiving at some point, hopefully soon, $100,000 for the senior center parking lot to be able to redo that. $25,000 for our fire department for some battery operated tools, as well as $25,000 for downtown improvements. I think this council is very aware. I really want to focus on the downtown area as much as possible. We submitted some other additional earmarks that are part of the economic bond bill, et cetera. So we'll be looking to utilize that money for rapid flashing beacon lights and potentially restriping some of our roadways in there. So I'm very appreciative of their collaboration there. And obviously, as part of the budget, the schools received a little bit more than what was initially in the governor's cherry sheet number. And we'll be reviewing any difference for the town side of things as well. So I want to just highlight those earmarks. Those are good for us to get, and I appreciate that. In addition to fiscal year 27 update, I do want to give a reminder, obviously, that we're in the new fiscal year. A reminder for the public as well as the council, we are closed at Town Hall on Fridays moving forward for this year. We have changed hours at the library through the summer. Well, I'm sure we'll discuss that as part of the appropriation transfer, but and then as well as the senior center. But we are in fiscal year 27, so just a friendly reminder, we're closed on Fridays for Town Hall.
Thank you. Council Lundy?
Through you to the town manager, do we have any idea do we have additional monies in unrestricted local aid?
In UGA?
Unrestricted local aid.
I think off the top of my head, I had that figure before me. I think it ended up being like 50 or something. It wasn't pretty significant. It was like 50. It was like $50,000 or $60,000. Because what often happens when people take a look, they'll take a look at the UGA number and it will go up. But sometimes, often, especially as the conference committee process, your expenses and your charges go up as well too. But we did net a small positive.
So you said 15 or 16,000, not 50 or 60. I
I
couldn't.
think 50 to 60. I think
Okay.
it's around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We base it on the governor's numbers, so we're talking about 50 to 60 net from the conference committee numbers.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, we will move to item J, discussions. There are 2 items for discussion tonight, both requested by Councilor Spagone, so I will turn it to her for the first one, which is communications discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that you put these 2 items on the agenda. They're sort of items that I've been thinking about for the last few weeks, and my observations being in office just these past 10 weeks or so. I have a general concern about communications being given to the council and the dissemination of information. I think some folks have actually made note of it before, but I wanted to bring it out as a discussion for all of us to have, how we want to, as a council, provide communications, not only to each other, but to the public in general. It's really hard to articulate stuff to our community, our neighbors, our friends, you know, when we don't all have the exact same information and we're all not on the same page. I know I spoke with you about this a while back, and my biggest concern, Mr. President, is that we are doing a disservice to the community by not being efficient and proper in giving them information in a timely manner, in a concise manner, and in a consistent manner. It bothers me as a person who's been a public employee for 20 years, and my tradecraft outside of having been a collector of taxes, but also being a legislative aide and an assistant finance director, is making sure that when someone asks me a question or I need to provide a briefing, I give it to them in a quick manner, and everybody that's involved in the processes are informed. It is very jarring to me that we'll get a little bit of information from an email from you or from Justin, but it feels like we're all operating in a vacuum. And I find that irritating. And I just want us to be able to have the same information at the exact same time in a timely manner, both from you, Mr. President, from Justin, and if we need any type of guidance, also from Jason as well. So we're getting everything on the same page. Because if I'm not hearing something and someone asks me out in the public what's going on, I can't reasonably give them an answer. And that makes me feel bad because as their servant, I can't do my job for them. So what I'd like to see from this conversation tonight is that we have a discussion, a deliberation, and an understanding of how we're going to provide information to the public in a way that is understandable, but also consistent across not only all 9 members of us, but to the 29,000 people at home. And I think that we can do that tonight. And from an observational perspective, part of that communication also comes from an observation from last week's meeting that we attended in Middleborough. The exchange between members of the public and members of their select board was a free-flow dialogue. And the board was able to effectively communicate their stances and their views and information to the public. And I think that that's one part of the communication that we get to have in meetings that I think we are missing out on. It is a substantive civil conversation that I'll tell you right now, it was eye-opening to go over on the other side of the border last week and see that. Like, I think that is one of the things that we as a council should openly adopt, because ultimately we answer to everyone out there. And for me, I want to have that free flow of dialogue with folks. So to start it off, Mr. President, I think that's the items that I'm concerned about, what I want to talk about, and I want to know what my fellow colleagues think as well, because I think that if we can get that done tonight, we can at least put forward in motion an actual solid policy and approach for this council to communicate with the public and also to communicate with each other. I think that's vitally important.
Councilor Lindy?
Mr. President, so I agree and disagree with some of Councilor Spagone's comments. I think any of us have the opportunity to talk to the town manager and set up an appointment with him, and I do it every Monday before the Tuesday council meeting. Usually works. Sometimes we have to flip the schedule, but that works for me. I have been able to call this council president and talk to him on a regular basis. I went to Middleborough 2 or 3 times. I do not want to see Middleborough and Bridgewater. We have 2 public comment periods, okay? I take notes on all the comments so I can talk to those people, and I appreciate that. I came from a community where the council had 0 public comment. They didn't have one at the beginning, they didn't have one at the end. Their finance committee, which was the committee of the whole, you had to be invited to appear. I think we give a lot of open communication here. We did a water forum. I know there's people that don't like the 3 minutes, but let's look at it. We're here for 3-4 hours sometimes. If we opened it up, we'd be 120 at the norm, like we did that one meeting. I just don't think that's effective communication. I know that some of the boards and committees that I've served on previously in another community, we got like a weekly update. I'd love to see something like that. I mean, we were just told, like with the water stuff, we can look at it on the website like everyone else. Personally, I think we should have that information. The school committee in Brockton, which I didn't serve on, they got a weekly packet from the superintendent delivered to their house. I'm not asking for that because that's expensive, but we have email and that kind of communication. I'd like a little more than I'm getting, but I'm trying to get the communication by talking to the council president and talking to the town manager and, talking to the council clerk. So I think it's up to us too to do that. So everybody, I know there are 9 of us and that takes time, but usually I can have my meeting with the town manager 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it takes. And he's running tight. I watch him have a meeting right before me, a meeting right after me, and I think he's juggling in a way as fast as he can.
Mr. President.
Go to Councilor Kennedy first, just because he had his hand up first.
This is actually my first time hearing exactly what this discussion was even going to be about. So I will agree with Councilor Lindy. I'm in a different seat than all the other councilors here, and I understand that. The council president and I talk at a minimum once a week, if not multiple times a week. I also speak with the town manager regularly, whether it's an in-person meeting or not, but I do try to schedule the regular meetings with the town manager. There's been multiple times in those in-person meetings where the town manager has said, this information is information that needs to be shared with the entire council, and we have meetings lined up. It's not something that is ready to be shared yet because it's in the process of being worked on. So instead of giving me half of part of a piece of information, waiting until it's fully fleshed out and available for the entire council to hear, so one member doesn't have things. And that's happened a couple of times, at least. When it comes to the Middleborough meeting, I don't want to speak too much on comment on how their representatives run their meetings. The council president and I spoke at the beginning of this term about our process. We spoke about open meeting laws. The issue that we have if we open up public comment to anything anyone comes up and says is kind of it's a multi-part problem. Really, we're limited to one member discussing that topic with that individual, because the second another member starts to discuss that topic, it becomes a deliberation, which means we would all essentially cede that right to the town council president based on his opinion, interpretation, whatever that may be. He's available to do that right now if he wanted to respond to that, but he doesn't. And I don't disagree with that choice. I think that's the right choice, and that's also the guidance from the council we have. If a member of the public comes up to speak on a private issue that they have, a neighbor issue, something that isn't on our agenda, and we start discussing that, we are violating open meeting law by deliberating on topics that are not posted agenda items. That violates that as well. So regardless of what other towns may do and how many open meeting law violations they may or may not get, we do expose ourselves to having to deal with that and then going through that entire process. So I am a free speech advocate, and I like the fact that we have multiple periods of time for the public to come up and speak to us. It is uncomfortable and odd to sit up there and or to stand up there and speak to people that aren't going to speak back. It's uncomfortable speaking in public anyway, so I think that we offer a lot, and I think that one of the solutions, and we've discussed this solution, is on topics that require or we want more public input, is just to simply schedule more hearings on those things so that discourse can take place with the public on those specific noticed items that the public wants to come in and speak on. And the last thing I'll say is I would like to do more of that, except our meetings are going 3+ hours, and opening up any topic for more discussion is going to extend those. There may be times where that's really necessary and we just have a longer meeting, but I think that that's the solution is probably more hearings to allow the public to have a back and forth with a noticed item with the full council and ask those questions. And I'll give that back. Thank you.
Councilor Hahn,
I'd just like to say hear, hear to Councilor Kennedy.
any additional ones before we go back to Councilor Spigon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, to the points that you posited, Mr. Kennedy, and you, Mr. Lindy, you know, having to contact everybody to try to schedule a meeting, you know, all of us have very busy lives. Having a briefing, a weekly briefing, or some sort of like packet is helpful. I think that's the best way of dealing with everybody's this time. I know you're very busy. I know Justin's very busy. Having to schedule meetings like every half hour is, you know, after a while it gets burdensome. So I'm sensitive to that. I would rather Justin be doing the work that he needs to do than having to schedule meetings all the time. Having a weekly brief would be great. I've mentioned that to Justin. I've mentioned that to you. The part about the concern about possibly getting engaged in a deliberation, I believe there's a way we can avoid that situation where you stipulate on your agenda only items that are on the agenda can be discussed in this meeting. That prevents the public from bringing up an item that may not be germane to our agenda. That being said, and being tangential, the issue of having more hearings and meetings. Well, I've so far heard from this council that they don't want to do more than 2 meetings per month. How do we do more meetings and more hearings if we don't want to have more than 2 meetings per month? It seems a little antithetical to the idea of actually having more, you know, open dialogue with the public. I want to try to be as efficient as possible with our time. Yes, our agendas are extremely loaded with stuff, and frankly, there's likely better ways we can do this. We can use our time more efficiently and more effectively. If we do more meetings, if we do more hearings, we gotta like find a way to lessen the load on this, because I'll tell you right now, 100-page agendas, this is part of the problem. This is woefully inefficient for what we need to do as a deliberative body, and that's part of it. But again, I think what Councilor Lindy indicated is a good idea. I think that's what we need to try to consider going forward. This back and forth communication, one counselor to another counselor, you having to talk with the president, you know, that's good. I'm glad that you and the council president are communicating. That's what's supposed to happen. But, you know, not everybody can, you know, find 5 minutes in their day. I'm trying to look at it from a prospect of we're busy individuals. We all have specific lives. We all have specific jobs that we have to do, and we may not be able to appropriate a half hour to sit with somebody. we need to have at least like a consistent briefing of some form or another. And yes, maybe we do a follow-up call to our colleagues and say, hey, what's your take on this? Or we call the president, or we call you and ask for guidance on it. I think having a unified like structure and procedure is helpful. That's why I brought this up tonight. And I think that something like Councilor Lindy said, I think is efficient. I think that's an idea we can adopt. But like I said, to the part about the meetings, you stipulate on the agenda that only items that are on the agenda can be discussed. That's just part of what I think could be helpful. But I'm only one of 9, and I would love to hear what the rest of our colleagues have to say, Mr. President.
Councilor Kennedy?
I don't disagree with the concept of a brief, if that was able to be worked out, to be sent out to everybody, and whatever the parameters would be surrounding that to be given to the council. I don't see any issue with that at all. I think that's a good idea. As far as the time commitment, I know when I got on, I assumed committee meetings, 2 meetings a month, and emergency meetings. If I don't have time for multiple sit-downs or half-an-hour meetings with people, I don't have time for a concrete schedule of every single Tuesday night of every week, or 4 meetings a month, or what have you. I'd like to ask a question to our attorney. Taking items out of order on the agenda to have deliberations out of order, is that a violation of open meeting law that you're aware of?
So voting to take an item out of order in your...
I'll clarify. If
Yeah.
we have residents coming up speaking on different agenda items, and there's deliberation taking place by the council during that period, if multiple councilors begin deliberating that item when it hasn't been opened up for that deliberation period, is that a violation?
Not necessarily. It sounds a little more like a hearing at that point. I think if anything, you're just violating your own rules, right? In that sense, so long as the matter that you end up deliberating on has been posted, I'm not as concerned about the order in which it's taken. I think what you could be alluding to, though, could be some sort of violation of your own rule, wherein you have a conversation or you start deliberation over a matter that on the next agenda item is going to be a hearing, and now you've had all that deliberation that isn't actually part of the record of the hearing, which becomes somewhat problematic, right? Which I think is why you were alluding to having maybe hearings on things. That way you can have that discussion within the context, create a record of that discussion within that context, and not violate the open meeting law. But I don't think, and again, hypotheticals are very difficult because you could throw a new fact into one and it can be a completely different answer. But simply taking something out of order that's already been posted and properly posted and is going to be deliberated here anyway, I think is probably okay. It's just, I get a little nervous about, you have a hearing, but you've posted a hearing, and that hearing was posted for 7 o'clock, right? You guys are very strict about, we're gonna have this hearing and this, and you've done the hearing over here, and that's gonna become part of this deliberation over here. That's not necessarily an open meeting law violation, that's a violation of your own rules. It could also be problematic in the decision you make if it gets appealed down the road, right? What becomes part of the actual record of the decision, because you're making some sort of finding on, I took in this evidence, I found this based on this evidence. Well, that evidence has to be part of that hearing. Was it not? So there's hypotheticals where it could become problematic.
What about in the second public comment period? Say we have a hearing, the hearing's closed, and then we begin discussing that in the second.
You have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So conceivably, you could do that. Whether or not that would be legally advisable, I don't know, because I think it would depend on what the thing you're discussing is. If you are united about the opinions that you're going to portray relative to those discussions, because I think what you forget is sometimes you enact something, not all of you may agree with, and may have differing opinions on. If you enact that, that ends it. If you continue that on in a public setting, you may actually be saying things that will be directly adverse to the town, right? by saying my position wasn't upheld, and these are all the reasons why, and these are the shortcomings with, you could actually be advocating against the town in that sense, right? So hypotheticals are almost impossible to answer because it really is contextual. And I think if you're worried about open meeting law, I'm not sure that there's an issue with the open meeting law. There are other legal implications to the things that you're talking about.
Thank you.
Councilor Ellenberg.
Yes, you're concerned about the testimony of people in the public comment period. May I suggest that when a hearing on a topic has been opened, that the public be permitted to comment on that topic only as part of the hearing, and their public comment becomes testimony into the hearing, and thus you have the counselors and the people talking together on the hearing, and I think that's what we should do for openness in this town.
I think that's the process as it exists.
So we have not had people come up in the middle of our hearings from the public and make comments.
The process, and Mr. President does it each time, is to hear from the public in that hearing. He actually asks it, and if the public doesn't come up, that's up to the public. But certainly, that's part of the process.
Yes, I was referring to public comment that is in the agenda be folded into hearings.
Yeah, I think it is. As it presently stands, I think it is.
Mr.
Is there anything
President?
more on the communications
Yeah,
discussion?
on that topic, I think that, like, even tonight, that was done. Is there anybody here in favor of this proposal, and they can
Right.
come up and speak? Is there anybody here against this proposal, and they can
Yeah.
come up and speak? Rather than them do it in public comment, I think that's the way to do it.
Right.
That's
That
we
is
have.
what we
Right.
do. That is the way that
Let's
we
bring
do
it
it.
back. Are there any additional comments on Councilor Spagone's discussion communications that we want to discuss further? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is legislative document tracking system. Councilor Spagone.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was another item that piqued my curiosity. As I alluded to, I actually once worked at the State House, and they had a robust system to track legislation. Not looking for anything like that here, and actually Debbie provided me a spreadsheet of the legislation currently out there. I'm trying to think of ways that we make things a little bit easier, knowing that we now have reduced hours and whatnot, trying to make it easier for Debbie to be able to assist us in tracking all of our legislation. And I'm wondering if the council would be interested in seeking out possibly a solution that might help her out with that and make it easier for us to keep track of it too. Something that we can, asking for a spreadsheet's fine. I like that. It was a good format, but maybe we could do it in a more accessible way, and we can use that same system, that there's a public-facing side of it. There's ways of going about it. I just want to know what the council's opinion or thoughts might be on it, because I think that to at least enhance information out to the public and have it, be more accessible, I think a tracking system is a good way of going about it. And I'm familiar with at least one company that does it. I'd be happy to look into it. But I want to know what other members think, since they've all been on here longer than I have, and they've dealt with the current tracking system that we have right now.
Just so folks are clear, before we get to the discussion piece, our town council clerk uses an Excel doc now to track all legislation. She shared that with councilors this afternoon. Folks may have not had an opportunity to even see that because it came this afternoon. We also updated our website now, and it shows more information regarding current legislation. I think that was just as of the last few weeks or a couple weeks. And so now it gives an update on sort of pending litigation that's out there, pending legislation that's out there, not litigation, hopefully. And so I think public facing, it actually gives a little bit more information. But again, I don't know if the council's had the opportunity to see the clerk's email or the website as of yet. Maybe that suffices, or maybe that's part of the conversation, but just throwing that out there. And I saw Councilor Lindy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't review it extensively today, but we got that email today, and I think it was even suggested that it was done every year in August, and now it's going to be done more frequently.
Correct.
So that may solve the problem that Councilor Spagone has addressed.
So, Jokio.
Debbie, what would you like to see from us to make your job easier as keeping track of this legislative update system?
What I do now is fine. We don't really have the money to get another program, so I think the spreadsheet, I don't know if you guys need something different, but I don't have a problem doing the Excel spreadsheet, so.
Thank you.
It's not a problem.
Councilor Perry?
Thank you. Just to speak to that, in the years I've been on the council, anytime I've needed a summary of legislation or even legislation that I've put forth or sponsored, she's been able to create a spreadsheet of that, like that, and it's never been an issue as far as getting that information, as far as sharing it with the public. That's just about getting it on the website. And the search parameters of finding the different legislation has always been a little bit in question in that regard, but I think there's been some progress in that direction on finding that on the website. But as far as the Excel spreadsheet of how she's done it up to this point, I don't see a problem with it. And again, I would agree that looking into any other software now for an additional cost probably is not in the budget right now.
Anything additional?
Council President, can I just add something? I know it's a discussion with the council, but I do want to add this. I know Deb sent an email, but I do want to take the opportunity to commend her as well as our IT team, because in the email, it did reference that a few weeks ago, what we've typically done is in August, we do a total review of what we've done for the previous year. That's what it's been for years, a long time, over a decade, I think. But seeing the opportunity to modernize and move forward a little bit, I tasked and I asked Deb, as well as our IT department, why can't we do this on a more regular basis? One, to be more transparent for the public, but also for councilors as well, to see where it is in the legislative process. So I asked them to undertake that, and they've already started to build that out. So even before this discussion came on, they've started to build a IT parameter on the website, so it's not only for the councilors to see it, but you'll be able to see, hey, this item has been submitted, this has been approved. You will see this a lot more transparently, a lot sooner than what we've ever had in our town. So I would say, I agree, I think budgetarily maybe it's not the right time to do it, but not to say it's not a good idea, because we do need to try to modernize and take some bandwidth off of our staff. We've reduced hours and we're trying to add more work. It's difficult sometimes. Let's see how this plays out over this next fiscal year. That's the task that I submitted to the group before, and I think they've risen to the occasion, and hopefully it works for the public and the council moving forward. But I do want to commend her and my team for doing that. I put a little bit on their plate, and they seem to have navigated it.
Anything additional? Okay, moving on. Item K, committee reports. There are none, unless seeing none. Okay, we'll move to item L, legislation for action. The first item is petition P 2027-002, warrant for the 2026 state primary. If there's anything additional to add to this, but I will open it up to the council for any discussion, or a motion first.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Spigot, seconded by Councilor Perry. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Moving on to proposed ordinance DFY 22-007, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 2, Legislative Branch, Term Limits. I will take a motion.
I have a question before the motion. Is that possible?
Let's make the motion first and then ask the question.
Well, I'll make the motion then.
Thank you. Councilor Lindy made the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Lindy, seconded by Councilor Spigot. I'm assuming a motion to approve, just to
Yep.
clarify, right?
Right, motion to approve.
Okay.
So the question is, I believe there are other former counselors' names on that. I would be certainly glad to be a sponsor of that if that's necessary.
I'll refer to our town attorney on this. I think we talked about this prior, and I think because this went to the State House, I don't know if that affects it, but to answer Councilor Lindy's.
Yeah, and I think it's already been approved by this council, so the initial sponsor and any secondary sponsors are already set in stone. This is literally just because what ends up happening as part of a charter change is we send this stuff up to the State House Council looks at it, and any slight variations that don't impact the actual content of it, but can simply be like a typo or something like that, we'll usually bring back. So there can be a sponsor relative to this minor change, but it wouldn't be a change in the ordinance itself, if that makes sense, because it's already been voted, right? We're literally just, this is not a vote on the actual content itself. It's a vote on the way that the language is drafted to suit what the state legislature is requiring to get it moving along the process.
Good, okay. Any additional questions on the motion? Counselor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the town attorney, is there any way, let's say if we don't want this, and there's another one, that we can say, vote no now? Are we stuck with this?
It's already voted. You're only voting a change in the language.
So I can't table it or do anything to stop this?
No, I mean, you could table the vote. The actual order that you should be voting on is just to simply change that one section. You're not re-voting the content. So you could, and we could send it back the same way it is, and the state legislature can decide if they're going to continue to move it forward.
But we can't stop this.
I think that would be in violation of what the actual original intent of this council was, which was we vote it, we get it approved, we have it sent back, and we have voters approve it, right? Because that's really what's already been voted. That's done. This is literally like changing a Scrivener's error in a document. We're just going through the formality of the process. Now, if you don't change it, that'll be up to you.
No, I was just wondering, because we have two of these, so I'm just asking before we
Yeah.
get to the other one.
No.
We can't cancel that out, rescind it,
No, it's already voted. It's
either one of
done.
them?
Yeah,
Nothing.
it's already been voted. It's already, the next step in the process is already come and gone. We've already moved it to the State House. It's actually unfortunate to some degree that the State House doesn't review these things in advance of votes, right? That
Yeah.
would be a more efficient process, personally.
No, it's the other one that I'm more concerned about than this one.
Yeah,
That's why I
no,
was just wondering if I could,
the
I
con-
can't prevent them.
The
going forward.
content of it's already been voted on.
Okay.
These things are already set in stone and done. The only thing that's in front of you is the change and they're actually fairly, I don't know if you've read them, they're
I
fairly
read them.
minor.
It's not this one, but it's the content of the other one.
Yeah.
The recall one.
Yeah.
But I can't
That's-
do anything.
No.
Okay,
They're
thank
already
you.
voted.
Any additional comments or questions? Okay, so we had the motion and a second, so I'll take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Motion passes 8-1. Moving on to proposed ordinance D, FY 22-009, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 3, Elected Officials Recall Provision. I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spagone. Any comments, discussion?
Yeah, I don't
Councilor
know.
Perry?
Again, this is just on the, as the prior one, just the wording at the very end of the, coming back from the state.
Councilor McGrath, did you?
I do find this one very dangerous. The language is very vague on this. You know, omission of facts. I mean, if the town manager tells me something and I can't tell it until it's thoroughly done, is that omission? I mean, a violation of the law, is that include if I litter? I mean, I just feel like even driving under the influence or alcohols, employees, if they do, they won't get fired. They'll have to go to the MAA, the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, or classes. We can get, recalled. And if we get pulled over, is the police now our babysitters? They're going to come tell the town manager or the president of our council? I really have a problem with this. There's a lot of stuff in this. I mean, I'm not a congressman with lobbying going on and stuff like this, but I think it's rather dangerous. So that's my opinion.
Councilor Perry?
Yes, going back to when this was originally introduced, we went back and forth on the language quite a bit. This was modeled after language in other towns that we kind of can't recall the town off the top of my head that this came from, but we went through this a number of times to get the language to where it's at right now. So again, this is why it was sent forth to the state after we, as a council at that time, reviewed the language. But again, this wasn't just brought about willy-nilly. We looked at other sources of, for the information that we have here in front of us.
Thank you. Councilor Trocchio.
I would just like to point out that it says conviction of a felony or conviction of the following misdemeanors as defined by Mass General Law. So that means that there was a due process. They did go to trial. They did appear in front of a jury of their peers if they so choose. This is not a saying that, you know, if you get pulled over for whatever, it's getting reported to the, I think this is okay. Just the level is a pretty high level for a felony conviction or a conviction of any criminal statute, so.
Councilor Allenberg.
Yes, I see this as a case of the morals police. And if someone goes into a bar and has a couple of drinks and someone sees a counselor drive, are they going to call the police on the counselor? This is morals police. I really think this needs to be defeated and brought back in another manner. This was sponsored by Fred Chase, who is no longer a counselor. I'd also like to point out a little bit of personal history. I brought a recall petition to town meeting about 25 years ago. It was voted in by the people at town meeting. Okay? Then we abandoned town meeting and went to a council. Nevertheless, Councilors Demos, Berolini, and Reardon were recalled. Now, I don't know if that recall provision from town meeting still carried over to the council. Apparently, to someone who's on the charter committee, we do not have a recall provision at all. Okay, so I don't know how those three people were recalled under the council. So that's a little funky, if you ask me. But this whole thing is funky morals police. So I would urge my fellow councilors to defeat this and we write an entirely new one currently.
Could I just mention that two of the three counselors were taken off of the committee by court, not by the town's.
Yes.
All right, well,
Yes,
no,
that
we're
court
not gonna
case.
go back and forth
Yeah,
about
yeah.
20 years ago. It's probably not relevant,
It
but
didn't have anything to do with.
let's stick to this. Councilor Lindy.
Just point of clarification, if I heard town council right, this has already been passed. It's just a modification of the language. I'm not thrilled with the language in here particularly either, but I just want to make sure that's what I heard, that it was passed, we're cleaning up some of the language, and because they asked us to, and we're sending it back to them.
The technical thing you're voting on is to fix the Scrivener's error. You're not voting on the underlying content because it's already passed.
Right.
It's already passed.
Question.
That's Allenberg.
Can we make a motion to revoke the prior passage of this bill?
No. You can
Really?
vote, you can vote down your order, which is to change the Scrivener's error. You can vote no on that.
Well, no. Can we vote down, revoke this before it returns to the legislature?
No,
No.
cannot.
Okay, Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you. Just so the public's aware of what this actually is, the last one is the same. The original ordinance at the end said voters of the town of Bridgewater. The state would like it to say by the majority of the voters of the city known as the town of Bridgewater, but not otherwise. That's all we're voting on here. I'm going to vote in favor of this like I've done on previous orders to uphold previous council decisions. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but it's already been passed.
Thank you.
Counselor Perry?
Thank you. And just to expand upon that, ultimately after this, it goes back to the state for our Scribner's errors, and it goes back to the voters. So ultimately, the town will decide whether it's passed or not, so.
And seeing no more comments, I was also going to point out that the changes in the wording are very minor, but they are consistent on both. So to our town council clerk, maybe as our charter review committee is also in place, when those come around again, whenever they may be, we should probably just make a note that this language be consistent, because it seems to be the only thing they corrected in both of these.
Ironically, our prior language had been approved on other charter changes. So this is the first time after doing this, I've been doing this for 15 years, and we've had other charter changes that went through with this language. So it's interesting that now the language isn't sufficient.
And my last point was along those same lines, just for the audience's pleasure. This was introduced on 9/7/2021, in case anybody had any questions about how efficient our government is. That was 5 years ago. So here we are. We will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1. Okay, moving on to proposed General Ordinance D FY 26-004, amendment to Chapter 3, Article 2, Section 1, Business Ethics Conduct and Conduct.
Would you like me to speak on this?
Yeah, we're going to take a motion first. The motion's going to be to refer to advertising.
Motion to refer?
Motion made by Councilor Spigot.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Lindy and Councilor Kennedy.
This motion was introduced in August of last year. I'll also add that this did go through the Rules and Procedures Committee with a recommended vote of 3-0. This aligns the town department heads with requiring the code, with the business ethics and conduct that the state requires to take the test. And what we are at with this now is instead of an entire replacement ordinance with new language to update a couple of additional things, the town clerk, the council clerk was kind enough to amend this as a line by line for me, so fellow councilors can see the edits and changes in it.
Any additional questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0 to refer to advertising. Next, we'll move to zoning ordinance D FY 26-014, amendments to central business district regulations. We will also take a motion to refer to advertising.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Hunt. Any discussion or additional motions that need to be made?
Mr. President, since one of our predecessors is listed on this legislation, I would make a motion that it be changed, but I will leave it to my colleagues to decide who wants to shepherd this now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would suggest, I can suggest we vote for it.
You'll make a motion
Make a
to
motion.
amend.
Make a motion that we change Counselor Johnny Loretti to replace with Counselor Kevin Perry.
Okay, motion to amend has been made, and do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Spigot. Any additional discussion on the amendment itself to Councilor Perry? Seeing none, let's take a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, back to the original legislation. Any discussion, further discussion? Councilor Allenberg?
I would like to make an amendment that 9.8.4.3, development plan review submittals, be amended to include a water impact study.
Second.
Point of information, Mr. President. Can we repeat that?
Okay, it is development of plan review submittals. If you look on the first page, it's 9.8.4.3. That's page 64 of 101.
I guess a question for our town manager. It references in here, development plan review application and checklist. Is that water requirement part of that checklist, or are we making an?
My amendment, if I may explain,
Yeah, sure.
my amendment reads, "The checklist shall include a water impact study on each development." That's my amendment language.
So you're asking to amend the checklist, not what's actually in 9843, just for clarity?
For clarity, item 2,
Yeah.
under all this, will include an additional sentence. The checklist shall include a water impact study on each development.
Just for, clarity, I think if you're going to do that, which I think you can do, you're probably going to have to define what a water impact study is, who pays for the water impact study, what it needs to include and not include, because I think that term can mean a lot of things.
I think the planning board would have the purview to define all of that.
I think that would make their decisions arbitrary and capricious from a legal point of view, because if the planning board says, if someone comes in and says, here's my water impact study, and it was about how much water is available, right, which is, I think, what you're alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
And the planning board says, well, really what we meant by a water impact study was a PFAS study. That creates the decision that they make will become arbitrary and capricious, and it will be appealed. So my suggestion, which is all it is, from a legal point of view, in terms of defending our ordinances, right, against litigation or appeals, would be that if you're going to make requirements of parties applying that the planning board then has to look at and make decisions on, you want to be as specific as possible.
So we can have the planning board determine policy, and policy would go for everybody.
Well, I don't know that that's a policy. I think you're making a requirement under the zoning ordinance.
Yes, that would be the policy,
What's the policy?
to have a water impact study.
Right, and what I'm saying is, what I think you need to do is define what a water impact study is.
Yes, and what I answered was, the planning board will set the policy and do so in a way which is not arbitrary and capricious, but consistent for everybody.
So my recommendation would be that you guys set that by way of ordinance. That's my legal advice.
Okay, so amendment has been made, or proposed amendment has been made. A motion to amend has been made. Do I have a second for that?
He
seconded.
Okay.
We're still discussing.
Councilor Perry?
Thank you. Through you, actually, to the town attorney. So would we better serve to look at the checklist and add a water impact study to the checklist itself? Because this is only applying to, CBD districts and not necessarily town-wide. So would we better serve to add a potential water impact study to the actual checklist, which this now ordinance would refer to that checklist if that water impact study was on the checklist?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to add that to the checklist, to add that to the ordinance. As many places as the planning board will get support when they make a determination based on the criteria that they're presented, the better, right? So I would say probably step one is what Councilor Ellenberg is recommending, which is added in here as part of the ordinance. And then there's probably some other stuff you're going to want to go through here and ensure that it's consistent throughout, right? If you're creating a new requirement as part of this process. So yes, I think that's important too. But again, I think it all comes back to what you define as a water impact study.
Right, and I agree, it needs to be defined, and again, Mr. President, through you to the town attorney. So the setting of what is on that checklist is under the purview of whom? Would it be the planning board, would it be the building department, or is that something that the council would suggest be added to the checklist?
I think personally, I would add something in here by way of ordinance, and then it will get added to the checklist based on what you put in by way of ordinance. That's what I would do, because this is the most important part of it, right? What you all decide will be the legislation relative to how our town is zoned is here, right? That's the most important part. The
Yep.
checklist itself is a form that is only going to follow what you all say or ordain within this. So I wouldn't worry as much about like the logistical, the next step part of it. I would worry about how the ordinance reads and be just really specific about how that looks.
Okay, thank you.
Council President, just to add to that, and I agree with the town attorney, I think it's really important that it is via ordinance, because this is for the central business district, and I think the intent is for the town for projects overall. So that's why I do think an ordinance, and I agree, no matter what you do, overall would be an ordinance outlining the requirement for a water impact study. Because once again, this is only for the central business district. This would be, that wouldn't reflect outside of that area then, which I don't think is what your intent is, so.
Actually, I intend to duplicate it, put it in the general zoning and this zoning.
So, yeah, an ordinance would be the best mechanism to do that.
All
I think
right, Counselor McGrath and then Kennedy.
So right now, Council Kennedy and I are making a ordinance, a water impact, what it means, and we're in the process of doing it.
Excellent. So then that can be brought up when you're done.
And it will be implemented on, we're defining what projects needed, and we're going to be meeting probably with the town manager and the water department if we can, to crack it down a little bit more and with planning. We're in the process.
So, Mr. Attorney, if it's
Counselor
being...
Lundberg, we're going to go to Counselor
Sorry.
Kennedy. Just hold that for a moment, if you will. I'll go back to you.
Thank you. Councilor McGrath mentioned that we've had discussions on this. We've had those discussions for probably a few months now since I had a previous water ordinance. From writing a previous water ordinance, even though it hasn't been moved through due to various other reasons with MBTA zoning, the definition defining what a water ordinance actually is, what it does, what a water impact study is, what it does, what it captures. I think, and unless I'm wrong, the majority of the council would like to see that, because we've seen water impact studies used in an arbitrary manner by previous individuals for the town. So I think having a blanketed ordinance that covers the entire town instead of a very small district would be more efficient and a better use of our time than doing this now and hashing out exactly what that is for this amendment, and then doing a secondary ordinance later that covers the entire town and essentially does the exact same thing. And I'll also add that, just so the public understands, one of the things that this does is it takes away the ability for the CED director and CED department to supersede the planning board, which was a point of contention for quite a while. A lot of people in the public have asked for that to be removed. This ordinance takes care of that. It places the oversight back with the planning board and realigns what the town had been doing prior. So I think a lot of us wanted to see that as well, and yeah, thank you for working with council already on that. I've spoken to the planning board chair. I know Councilor McGrath has as well, so I'm glad to see one of us is on this, and I think this is the right move for the town to put that control back with the planning board, so there's a different level of oversight, and we don't have building going on with arbitrary recommendations and requirements. Thank you.
Counselor Lundberg.
Yes, I just think that we should do this now, because this district is going to be impacting the MBTA. So we're talking about the major building and all of that kind of thing happening. And if water impact studies are not done, who knows what we're going to get.
Counselor Perry.
Thank you. I would just, I laud Councilors McGrath and Mr. Kennedy for, the work on what they're doing. I think we'd be better served to have an ordinance that asks, as mentioned by the town council, that defines a water impact study, what we're looking for that study to show, that it applies across all zoning districts. I think we're doing piecemeal stuff if we're adding it to this one and adding it to that one. Let's do an ordinance that covers all the zoning districts, and I think that would be a cleaner way to go as opposed to adding just a small change and snippet into this particular piece of legislation.
Thank you. Councilor Trocchio.
I just want to say that I agree with Councilor Ellenberg's position and the spirit of what she's trying to argue. Time and time again, I've experienced trying to bring up the issue of water impact studies for two projects specifically in my district, and time again, I keep getting, I would say, different answers and frustration from people in my district. I have some real concerns if we wait for the ordinance. I feel as if this council is not in the position to vote in favor of a water impact study to actually limit what Councilor Ehrenberg is trying to do. However, I do think that an ordinance would be the best course of action. I'd like to work with Councilor McGrath and Councilor Perry. Councilor Ehrenberg, I think it would be beneficial if we could, go to their committee meeting and see what they're actually defining and be able to shape the scope at which they want to have that water impact study. I think it would be beneficial to actually tie specifically the custom and what has been previously approved in building permits. I think that's what you're looking for, and that's how I'm interpreting it. I don't want to see this get watered down. I don't want to see this become a hand wave. I don't want to see this become no teeth to it, because that's my fear, and that's my fear as to what may happen. But I think we can do it through the procedural process that Councilor Perry is recommending.
Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify, it's me and Council Kennedy. We're working on this outside of any committees. We decided that it needed to be done. We've talked about this quite a bit. So we're working on the outside and doing it. So it has nothing really to do with a committee.
Councilor Ellenberg.
So the fact that it's being done outside, wonderful that you guys are doing this, wonderful. It needs to be defined, but in the meantime, we have a water emergency in this town. I think we ought to be directing the planning board in all of these planning board review process things to include the water impact study. Our town attorney said we can put it in the ordinance and have it defined by this committee afterwards. So I would urge the amendment to be passed.
Councilor McGrath.
I just want to clarify, we have a water moratorium, so we are not giving water to any new builds.
That's right.
Councilor
We aren't
Kennedy.
I'd
now.
like to call the question.
Okay, we have to take a vote for the call, right? Can we take a roll call vote to call the question, please?
May I clarify?
No.
We're taking a-
Ms. Ellenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Pagone,
Yes.
Ms. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Dr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Trocchio,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Lindy, and Ms. McGrath.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to the amendment. Councilor Ellenberg, now you may clarify just the exact language of the amendment, please, just so folks know what they're voting on once more.
The wording is, the checklist shall include a water impact study on each development. That is the amendment.
Thank you. Okay, can we do a roll call vote for that, please?
And just to clarify, it goes under number 2, and it's a new sentence after,
Yes, the checklist shall include a water impact study
yep,
on each development.
on each. I heard for all, okay, on each development. Ms. McGrath,
Yes.
Mr. Lindy,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
No.
Mr. Trocchio,
Yes.
Dr. Murphy,
No.
Mr. Kennedy,
No.
Ms. Hunt,
No.
Ms. Pagone,
Yes.
and Ms. Ellenberg.
Yes.
5-4. Amendment passes.
Okay, back to the ordinance itself. Any further discussion on the larger ordinance? Councilor McGrath?
Yes, there's a couple amendments we have to make, Dr. Perry. It's on page 7. Pat Driscoll gave us a new outline, and I don't think we updated on it.
I was looking through everything. I think everything that was discussed at our meeting is listed here. Do you see any differences?
I do.
What do you see as the difference?
Okay, let me get on that page. Are you on, it's on page 59? No. Yeah.
Point of clarification, is the attached document with all the blue lines, are those the proposed amendments by the planning board that you all are voting on? I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to what's getting voted on.
Just to clarify, we don't have any colors on here.
Yeah, we.
Majority of us.
On my computer. They look crossed out with underlines.
I think the problem is, Mr. Driscoll gave us a handout like this, which
Oh.
added more, and it hasn't gone on to here.
So are
At
those,
the meeting.
are those in addition to these?
Yeah, it's changed. If,
Again, Ms. McGrath, if you
On
could point
page-
out any differences here?
yeah, 59, here's the blue line. It's quite a bit. And there's another one on 58, which is smaller.
So,
Right,
Mr.
so what you just, by maintaining,
Remember, he gave us the handout, so it was not in our thing.
So,
If,
is it
Mr.
not in our
President,
packet?
If I may, just quickly, this has nothing to do with the actual debate about the substance. This is just procedural. So if these amendments are approved, at least the ones that I see in front of me that are blue lined, they make the ordinance more restrictive than it was previously. So you're going to want to vote to send it back to the planning board with the amendments and whatever other committee you want to send it to, okay? Because when they make them more restrictive, we send them back. If they make them less restrictive, you can vote them.
So then he can fix the ones that weren't done.
Oh, yeah, you can make whatever amendments you want. I was just talking from a procedural standpoint. You're going to want to, if you vote any amendments that make it more restrictive, you're going to want to take a vote to send it back so it can go back through the planning board. Right.
Just to clarify, Council, the amendments, as I understand it, that Ms. McGrath has in front of her, is coming from the planning board. So can we just vote to send it back to them, and they can make the amendments and send it back anyways?
No, you want to make the amendment because they can't technically make any amendments, right? So they make the recommendation. What can happen is they'll make a recommendation. Their recommendations make it more restrictive, make the zoning ordinance a little more restrictive. So because of that, you want it to go back through with the amendments made, and then they do a final review of it with the amendments. Presumably, they're not going to say no to their own amendments, but I've seen it happen. And then it comes back to you.
Okay, before this gets out of control, because Ms.
Yes.
McGrath did say that she has quite lengthy amendments to make that none of us have in front of us at the moment.
Right.
So what I see on your agenda, just so you know, what's online is a letter from the planning board, and accompanying that letter are several pages that are taken out of the zoning itself.
Right.
Within those pages, they're what are called red lines. They're actually blue here, interestingly enough. And they're showing a bunch of changes. So there are, from what I see, many changes. I mean, they're to specific sections, but there are many changes. And then I think what Ms. McGrath is saying is, in addition there too, there are other ones. So you probably could package them all up. I'm a little hesitant to say that because you're not really clarifying exactly all these changes, right? So you might want to go through them. I mean, I know that's tedious, but
Well, I have one more question. This page was removed, but it doesn't show on what the town council got.
I
Then we can't vote on it.
personally,
No, not that.
You may want to vote to continue this so that you all can get on the same page and make
Oh, is it
100% certain whatever amendments you want to vote are clear, but that'll be up to you all.
Motion to continue, Mr. President?
Second?
So we have a motion and a second on the table to continue this. And is there any discussion on the continuation? Councilor Perry?
Thank you. So what's been presented is most of the red line suggestions that came from a joint meeting of the CED and the planning board. As far as the nuances, as I'm looking at the language that, Ms. McGrath brought up here on page number 7, one aspect that's listed, maintaining a floor-to-ceiling height of at least 15 feet is underlined on her copy, but it's just not underlined in this one. So the suggestion is to just vote on the amendments that have been suggested right now to the council, so we can send it back to a joint committee meeting with the planning board and the CED. And then any additional edits that may not be exactly aligned can be fixed at that point in time, to at least get this continued to move forward. But just about, as everything that I've seen, it's mostly everything we discussed at that joint meeting. So there's nothing that's not been vetted through the initial process of the joint meeting. But again, they submitted all of the pages that changes were made on. They didn't submit all the pages that had no changes. That's what's been put in our packet here this evening.
Okay, we'll go Kennedy, Lindy, and then Ellenberg.
So it sounds like we have, and I did speak with Mr. Driscoll, there were additional amendments after what was put in through Mr. Loretti that they wanted to see, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, if we'd like to, as a council, as mentioned, I can go through the individual edits that's been in the packet right now, as opposed to continuing and answer any questions that, the council had at this point in time, so we could take a vote on at least these first version of edits to send back and
So
keep it.
are we voting on both
Just
the line?
We're voting on all the amendments that are listed here in the packet.
Okay, so it would be a package of these, and then in addition, some edits or some amendments that you have in front of you.
I would just vote on the amendments that are in front of us
They're
in
in
our
front of us
packet
right
right
now.
now. That'll get
Send
sent
that
back,
back. Okay.
and then anything further would be developed from
Okay,
there.
and just for clarification, Mr. President, we have a motion to continue.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we have a motion to send this to advertising, so that would also have to be backed off. Okay, just making sure.
Councilor Lindy?
I think we have a motion to continue, and I want to continue it. I don't think we all have the same information.
Councilor Ellenberg?
I just want to say, I don't think we should do things half-assed and do some amendments now and some amendments later. Let's do it all in one thing. Let's continue it.
Okay, to answer, Council, do we have to rescind, to Councilor Kennedy's point, the vote to refer to advertising, the motion to advertising? If we're continuing, it shouldn't matter, right?
No, it doesn't matter, and you vote in the order, and voting under Robert's rules, like to send to advertising is really the vote on the main motion.
Yeah.
So a motion to continue takes precedent and voting priority over the main motion. So if you vote the motion to continue, you don't have to worry about voting the other one.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the chance that it does not get continued.
Then you vote it. That's exactly right. Yep.
Still on discussion for the motion?
Yes. So I said, nothing is being done half-ass here. Everything that was discussed in the joint meeting is listed in this particular packet. And if we do take a vote not to continue this, to continue the process forward toward advertising, I would go through all the different edits that were made and describe them to the council, so there's clarity in the vote to send to advertising. Or refer back, I shouldn't say, we should probably refer back to CED and Planning Board first before we go to advertising.
Councilor Kenny?
So if what we have right now would go back to the planning board, they could then provide the additional amendments, send that back to us for approval, and then we could send it to advertising.
advertising at that point in time,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, we'll take a
Roll call.
roll call vote.
To continue.
Yes. We'll take a roll call vote on the motion to continue. And we would continue to the next council meeting, just to clarify that motion. Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Miss Ellenberg?
Yes.
Miss Pagone?
Yes.
Miss Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Dr. Murphy?
No.
Mr. Trocchio?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
No?
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
And Miss McGrath?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 3. Motion passes.
Okay, so the motion is continued to the next council meeting. Okay, that concludes our legislation for action. We're going to move to item M, old business. There is none. Item N, new business. There are a few. So we'll start with proposed ordinance D FY 27001, amend Part 2 Administrative Code, Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 24, Order of Business and Agenda. This was introduced by myself, so I will take a motion to approve.
Second.
Made by Councilor Kennedy and then seconded by Councilor Spagone. Just to clarify for the public, this changes the requirements for when town council members will submit items for the next agenda. And it also clarifies that agendas will now be made available on Thursdays due to the town hall closing. Any additional discussion?
Quick question, Mr. President. When we have the ability to be open again 5 days a week, will we need to come back and make this change, or will this be permanent going forward?
We would have to come back, yes.
We ain't going to 5 days a week.
Councilor Kenny?
I think due to the need to kind of expedite this, because we are not going to be open on Fridays, I would be fine with not setting this to rules and procedures to take additional time to pass this ordinance. And keeping it at the council level.
I would agree with that, just to help expedite the process.
Okay. So do we need to rescind the original motion? I don't even know who made it at this point.
I made it. I'll rescind it. I'll make a motion.
Councilor Kennedy did.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to keep this at council level.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Kennedy and seconded by Councilor Perry. Any discussion about keeping it here? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Moving on to Order O, FY 27007, acceptance of gift, Bridgewater State University. I will defer to the town manager.
This reflects a gift of $110,000 from BSU. $60,000 of it relates to sort of their annual gift. It's a 20% increase over their previous annual gifts to the town. In addition to that, it's a $50,000 gift to help pay for the Complete Streets grant that we received. The town would have to pay about $100,000 in engineering, and they are actually going to contribute to that, so the town doesn't have to pay for that. So this is one part, a portion of that $100,000 donation that they're giving to the town.
Okay. Could I have a motion to refer to Budget and Finance Committee?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Made by Councilor Perry, seconded Councilor Spagone. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to Order O, FY 27008, transfer order, Community Preservation Committee, cultural grant match for the townhouse. I'll refer to the town manager for any update.
This order is not required, so we would want to withdraw this item. So no action necessary.
Needs to make a motion to withdraw.
Motion to withdraw.
Move on.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Order O, FY 27009, transfer order, library budget reallocation. This would be a voice vote to Budget and Finance, but I will refer to the town manager.
I'll just briefly say, I know we heard from a member of the library trustees. I just want to clarify on my end, there was a premise that I changed my position. My position hasn't changed. The mechanism of how we're moving forward may have changed a little bit. When I initially proposed that, obviously we're in the budget situation that we're at, we have approved budget, we have limited funds. We all want to approach this by trying to do our best to not be decertified. The proposal that I gave before was to utilize state aid to help augment that, and that's exactly what we're still doing. However, the caveat is that we're having this transfer, moving funding in the expense line to the salary line. It's not adding additional money, it's not taking any additional money. But we will still use state aid to augment those expenses as well. So I just want to put that in the, on the record. I haven't changed my position. We're still doing this, but we want to put ourselves in the best position possible to get a waiver moving forward. So
Thank you. Okay, I'll take a motion to refer to budget and budget.
I'll make
finance.
that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Lindy, seconded by Counselor Spigot. Any discussion?
I
Counselor
do have a
Lindy?
question. Will this alleviate us from being decertified, or does this just allow us to get to the table?
I think as Jed has mentioned, I mentioned as previously, we would have to go through the waiver process no matter what. This puts us in our best position. We can't give any guarantees. We feel very confident about that. We've all talked with MBLC, and they prefer to see funding in the salary line versus the expense line. So we want to put ourselves in the best position possible.
Any additional questions? Counselor Choka?
I have a question for the town accountant, Lori.
Well, what's the question first?
I have the question.
Yeah, what's the question?
Ask it through the town
Oh, okay, I'll
manager,
ask
because
it.
she's an employee of.
How long have you worked for the town of Bridgewater? How long has she worked for the town of Bridgewater?
Go ahead, you can answer that.
A very long time.
What is your level of education when it comes to municipal finance?
Certified municipal accountant, which is a statewide program that we, accountants are certified in.
Have you worked for any other municipalities?
No,
Only Bridgewater?
yes.
Have you ever seen in your experience here, money pulled from the stabilization fund?
Directly? Yes, I have.
What were those circumstances?
COVID,
Yeah.
To fund what?
to fund the overall town budget.
In that experience, did that affect the bond rating of the town?
We are actually higher than we were back then, so.
So
I can't speak to when
So
the
my
ratings
question
were
is,
made.
was that pulling of funding, did it affect the bond rating of the town?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure if it was being considered at that time, so.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion? Counselor Lindy?
Just on that point, I thought we pulled money from the stabilization fund for the school department and put it back. Is that not true?
Is that a question?
Can you answer that question?
That's not true. We used it from our other reserves, one-time reserve. We didn't take it from the stabilization.
Okay.
Counselor Choka, do you?
So, I have a comment. So, I understand that the town is in its position financially. However, I think, I looked at the overall fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget as projected with State Representative Dennis Gallagher, and we've seen a decrease in funding for the library of $77,000. So tomorrow morning, we're going to call the MBLC and see if this actually helps with preventing it. So I think the answer of having, well, it's up to the state. I think the state is, we can deduce the answer that the state's going to have. And the state's going to say, okay, you've deliberately underfunded the library for X amount of years. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody on the record, but we fund the library less now than what we did in 2003. And I think maybe the town accountant could hopefully provide clarification of that if my facts are incorrect. But that's my understanding of it. And right now, we're moving to reallocate sources to $56,000, which is less than what it was initially funded for. I do support this piece of legislation. However, I think that the fight's going to continue. I am still going to zealously advocate on behalf of the library. I think that the library deserves way more funding than the $56,000. I think that we're doing what we can. However, I believe, based on our current financial situation, based on what I've just heard from the town accountant, relatively speaking, I think we do have the ability to access more. So I'd like to see different courses of actions and the risks associated with those courses of action. I think we have one general course of action right now with this $56,000 allocation. However, specifically, we requested at the last meeting to have other courses of action to tell us where else can we pull funds from. I don't see that. However, I do support this amendment, and the fight will continue. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay, again, we're referring to budget and finance. Budget and Finance Committee. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to order FY 27010, transfer order, finance budget reallocation. I'll refer to the town manager.
Yep, we're taking, in the finance department, we're taking advantage of some personnel movement. And obviously, we're talking about budget and budgetary needs. There clearly is a need in the assessing department for more support, considering the veterans exemption and different council decisions. So we would like to reallocate funding from the Treasury Department. Not saying there isn't a need for the funding of the position in the Treasury Department, but to reallocate to the assessing department to address some of the additional workload, cognizant of the reduction in hours that we've made for staff as well.
Okay, I'll take a motion to refer.
Motion to refer.
Second.
Motion made by Council Lindy, seconded by Councilor Spagona. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to order FY 27011, transfer order, funding of fire arbitration.
I'm just going
Town manager?
to briefly read this verbatim, but I want to make sure we get this spot on. So on Friday, June 26th, the town received the interest arbitration decision in the matter of the unresolved bargaining negotiations with the Bridgewater Firefighters Union. The award was issued by a panel appointed by the Joint Labor Management Committee, an agency charged with resolving police and fire bargaining disputes. Pursuant to Chapter 589 of the Acts of 1987, I am obligated to present the council with a request to fund the award within 30 days, and the request before you provides sufficient funding to meet the town's obligation under that award. Under Chapter 589 and under Chapter 150E, I, along with others on the bargaining team, have an obligation to support funding for the JLMC award, and I do support that funding. So this order provides that funding as I've read.
Take a motion to refer to budget and
Motion.
Finance and Finance
Second.
Committee. Motion made by Councilor Spagona, seconded by Council Lindy. Any discussion? Okay, just a note by myself, I do see, ironically, Councilor Trogale's stabilization trust fund listed on here to fund this. Certainly that'll be a discussion in the budget and finance meeting, but just wanted to note that.
Thanks.
Ironically, that came up on the next piece of legislation, so. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to order FY 27012, conservation restriction, 48 Summer Street. This would be, any updates from the town manager? Sorry.
So I'll have our town council help with this as well. We just wanted to put this as a placeholder to not have any delay in terms of when we have a conservation restriction document. There's work that needs to be done with the state. I would suggest that we keep it at council level because whatever agreement we have, you can't really amend it anyway. It's just approving that or not. But if the town attorney has anything to add, I defer to him.
Not much. So essentially, with the award we received and the fact that we also received CPC funding for the Summer Street project, we have to execute a conservation restriction, something similar to what happened with Hanson Farm and that grant funding. So what you could expect is at some point in time, we'll be back before you with what has been approved by the state. When you do these CRs, essentially, the state expects you to use their template, but then things get kind of knocked out as the process goes based on what's applicable to your project versus other projects, and then you have a final version of it. What we like to do is give you the final version of it so you all can vote on that part of it. The back and forth is really going to be about the boilerplate relative to the CR, and the CR will relate to what we initially took the property for. So I can answer any questions you have on that, but I would expect this to take some amount of time because there's going to be a back and forth with us and the state relative to what actually gets included in that conservation restriction.
Okay, I'll take a motion to keep at a council level.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Spagona, seconded by Councilor Ellenberg. Any further discussion? Councilor Perry?
I'm just looking at it, at the top, obviously it mentions 48 Summer Street, but within the second paragraph, it mentions 46. Is that a Scribner's error that we need to correct?
Yeah, we'll have some amendments that we have to do to clean that up.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that concludes our new business. Moving on to citizens' comments. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. Anyone may comment for this time for up to 3 minutes. A reminder to state your name and your address, please.
John Donna, 261 South Street. I just want to thank Councilor Ellenberg for introducing the water impact study and amendment into the Central Business District legislation. I think in our current environment and water situation, I think that was very important, so thank you very much.
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. I listened to your discussion and communication. I think it was a good discussion. But I want to make sure you're aware of serial violations of open meeting law. I've had the training 3 times. That's one of the things the Attorney General's office talks about. And that is Counselor 1 speaks to Counselor 2, Counselor 2 speaks to Counselor 3, Counselor 4, and it comes around. That's a serial violation. So be careful about sending a document out to all of you without the words "not for discussion until public meeting." Thank you.
Seeing no further public comments, we'll move to councilor comments, and we'll start with Councilor Ellenberg.
I'm going to pass. It's been a long meeting. Thank you.
Councilor Spigot.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I wanted to just note to folks, I was really happy to see everybody out at the 4th of July parade last week. It was well attended, as you noted, Mr. President, and a good party atmosphere. I hope to do it again next year. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit more tolerable for all of us. I know a lot of folks look like they were wilting in the sunlight, so that's a hope for next year. So hoping 251 is a lot cooler than 250. But I did want to also thank my colleagues for at least engaging in the discussions that we had tonight that I asked to be put on the agenda. I think there is still considerable work that needs to be done. To Mr. Hunts's point that, if there is any communication sent out from the council, that they do have that stipulation. Again, this is something that we should be working on and crafting either in open meeting or through providing suggestions to you, Mr. President, as written amounts. But I just want to say I appreciate that everybody at least listened and allowed me to at least offer this up for a topic of conversation. And I hope that the residents at home and our neighbors and friends see that as an effort to try to make things a little bit better, not just for us as a council, but for us as a community in general. So with that, Mr. President, I will say thank you and good night, everyone.
Councilor Hunt.
Yes, I just say happy birthday to our council secretary, and I hope it's a good one. And I hope it gets a little cooler tomorrow, but I don't think it's gonna. But still, I can say that. Maybe it'll come true. And thank everybody for their work. We're glad to have our manager back after a little bit of a respite, which he certainly hadn't had for a full year. And glad to have our new assistant town manager here. And of course, Lori, she does a fabulous, fabulous job, so I don't want to miss that. And our town attorney. I think that's everybody that I want to thank, except all you guys. Thank you. But, oh, I missed Caitlin. Caitlin. Yeah, okay. 3 cheers. Thank you.
Councilor Trocchio.
Thank you very much, everybody. I have no comment. Thank you.
Councilor Perry.
Echo the sentiments about the 4th of July. I want to thank the 4th of July committee for all their hard work. That's now a year-round job. Again, going back 20 years, I was president of the committee for a couple of years, and I know how much work it is, but again, it's evolved to be a full-time, full-year process. So I thank them all very much. It was a great evening. A lot of people packed to watch those fireworks. It was a very good show this year, and the rain held off just in time. The parade was great. Enjoyed marching with all the councilors, and good showing overall for the parade itself. And also just want to mention, I believe our 12-year-old All-Star Little League team is in a big game here tonight against Middleborough about advancing in their process. But I know the 10, 11-year-olds also won their division, so we've had a good summer for Bridgewater Little League Baseball. So I want to congratulate all those kids. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hopefully that baseball game doesn't impact our water agreement. Councilor Lundy?
Turn on the mic would be helpful. Just want to remind residents that the fire department announced today, and it's posted on Facebook, that there are cooling centers available at the senior center throughout this heat wave. I know the CERT team did yeoman's work, in the past, didn't get a lot of takers, but the option is there. Personally, I'm hoping our next meeting is not August 11th. I think we shouldn't be taking the summer off, and I think if items come up, we should consider a meeting prior to them. I've been saying that all along. I don't want a weekly meeting, but I don't think one a month is sufficient. And I want to let you all know that this town does support strongly its library. Between the two fundraisers that happened, Papagino's was a little over 600, and Barrett's was almost 900. So, a lot of money was raised. We set up a new Friends and Library Supporters page, and within 2 days, we had 500 people that joined that page. We're going to try to get them to all be members and show that the town really supports the library, and I will applaud Councilor Trocchio for strongly talking about the library tonight. I didn't think I needed to after he did that, and we just got to continue to make sure it's the only department that requires certification. And I want to make sure that we stay on that. I was not thrilled to death to now add Friday to the list to go over to East Bridgewater or West Bridgewater. I think our citizens deserve better. Thank you.
Councilor McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Fire for Effect has had 2 farmers market. They're really well attended. There's a lot more in there, and Al's making hot dogs and sausages, and they're pretty good. So I would advise everyone to try it out. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy?
Like most of my stuff was already said. Fire for Effect is doing multiple farmers markets throughout the summer, so please, if you like local grown food, go check that out. I want to thank the 4th of July committee for putting on a great show. I know the heat and the stress of running that was a lot, but I want to thank them as well as BTV for doing the music and filming and putting all that out there. Thank you for those that stayed to the end, and thank you guys.
Thank you all. Nothing further from me tonight other than, again, I said thank you to the 4th of July committee. Now it's time to turn our attention to the winter on the common, right? So I'm sure that'll be the next thing we see, unfortunately. But hopefully we can keep the great events going in Bridgewater, and Fire for Effect certainly has done an amazing job of that too. So a great turnout, great to see people at those events. And that's it for me tonight. Let's take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You're adjourned.
9:26.